Hello, and welcome to My Finance Teacher. We are talking about Bitcoin thanks to one of the requests by one of the subscribers. I do appreciate your comments and your requests, as well as your questions under the videos. So those are always welcome. And Bitcoin, since the end of June, Bitcoin has been going up, just like this arrow is climbing up. And if you want this arrow to continue climbing upwards in terms of the price of the Bitcoin, then you know what you gotta do. You have to, of course, hit the thumbs up button under the video. If you want this arrow to turn back down, well, you might know what you gotta do. So we have an arrow like this so far. And the question is, how far will this arrow reach upwards, and when is it going to turn back? Nothing can go up forever. This arrow must at some point turn back. Well, what's been going on to Bitcoin is, I think it has reached the end of this cycle. This cycle has stretched a little bit on the long side. This is been a cycle that lasted for about 2.5 months. Usually these cycles last for about a couple of months. Why do I think this cycle has finally finished? Well, one of the indicators I see that tells me the cycle has finished is the divergence on the RSI. We see that at the end of June, we've made lower lows on the price chart, whereas the RSI chart did not conform. It diverged. It didn't make lower lows. That is the RSI divergence. Sometimes we do talk about these in our videos. And these often, not always, but often indicate a change in the trend. Actually, if you remember in one of my previous videos, we saw a divergence over here at the end of April, beginning of May. At that time, there was a reversal in the trend as well. Price had been trending upwards since early April to the end of April. We saw the divergence, higher highs on the price chart, no higher highs on the RSI, and that told us there was going to be a declining phase in this cycle. And that turned out to be true. Sometimes these divergences might give us a false indication of a change in the trend. Well, anyway, that's one of the indications why I think the cycle has finally finished. Another indication is RSI has dipped into oversold levels. We haven't seen these levels for quite a while, since sort of February, early February. So I think it's deep enough. And another indication is the duration. We've been going on in this declining phase for over a month and a half already. Altogether within this cycle, we've been in this cycle for about 2.5 months. I think the market thinks it's enough, and we're moving upwards. Well, over the last few days, Bitcoin is having trouble breaking through this 50-day moving average. I think it's going to break through the 50-day moving average because RSI is only at neutral levels. It's not even close to overbought levels, never mind into the overbought levels. So for that reason, I think we're going to break through the 50-day moving average. And it's going to be questionable. It is questionable whether Bitcoin will break through the 100-day moving average. To be honest, I think within this cycle, the advancing phase of this cycle is only going to take us somewhere to that area of the 100-day moving average. And after that, I expect another declining phase of this current cycle, of this new cycle that we have started. So I think this 100-day moving average is going to give us some sort of a resistance level, probably something like that. Let's have it somewhere here. So what are the other indicators that might support this hypothesis? Well, for several months, as we know, Bitcoin has been in this sort of pennant formation or symmetrical triangle formation. This formation looks like this, the pattern looks like this, something like this. We have a symmetrical triangle over here, and we broke through the triangle on the downside in early June. These breakouts out of the pennant formations, either to the upside or to the downside, are very often followed by a retest of the line that was broken. In this case, this bottom of the triangle has been broken, and if price retests that bottom, that sort of agrees with the resistance level we are looking at. So that's somewhere in the mid 7,000, 7,500, 7,600 US dollars per Bitcoin. So that's another indication that agrees with this price level, which just adds to the probability that the price will reach that level. Another thing I want to have a look at is Fibonacci retracement numbers. So we are looking at this cycle over here first, that started in the end of December, finished sometime in early February. And the decline of that cycle took place from 17,400 all the way down to about 6,000. And what I want to compare is how much of that decline was retraced. How much of the next decline was retraced? And if history repeats itself, what percentage of the recent decline since early May are we going to expect to be retraced? So let's have a look at that. Fibonacci level over here, and to take into account the retracement over here, well, this rise retraced about 50% of the previous decline over here. Right. How about next one? This decline, and to extend this to the rise, about 62% has been retraced. So anywhere between, let's say, 50 and 60% of the decline has been retraced in this Bitcoin bear market so far. Yes. Let's have a look at the current decline. So from about 10,000 all the way down to about 5,900, something like that, 5,800. If again history repeats itself and we retrace, say, 50% or 62% of this decline, again, that sort of brings us into the range of at least 7,900 up to 8,400, just only slightly higher than the resistance zone we've drawn so far. So it sort of agrees with the resistance zone that we've drawn. If I raise it a little bit, then I sort of might argue that all these three formations on the chart do agree with the resistance zone over here, somewhere in the upper 7,000 levels, 7,600, all the way up to, well, close to 8,000. That is my expectation for Bitcoin over the next several weeks. I think it's going to break through the 50-day moving average, and it's going to sort of stall at around the height of the 100-day moving average. Unfortunately, after that, I'm going to expect a decline, and the question is whether the next decline is going to break through this 6,000 zone that has held 1, 2, sort of 3 times so far. Almost 3 times. Well, it's hard to say. Nobody knows for sure, but I think there is a higher than 50% chance that in the next declining phase, this 6,000 range or 5,900 range is going to be broken. The reason for that is the more often a support zone is knocked by the price on the chart, the weaker it becomes. Generally, that is the case. So we've already sort of been at around 5,900 or 6,000 zone 1, 2, sort of 3 times. This support zone might not hold in if the price knocks on it for the 4th time. So there is higher than 50% chance it's going to get broken over the next several months. If that does happen, what is our next support zone? What is our next support zone? Looking at price chart history, there is a high over here in early September. It almost agrees with the low in middle of November, but not really. That high is at about 5,000. I think we have mentioned that support zone in one of the previous videos. So in future, if the 6,000 or 5,900 support zone is going to be broken, the next support zone, which I think is not going to be broken, at least within the current 2-month cycle in Bitcoin, is going to be around 5,000. So that is my expectation for Bitcoin, relatively bullish over the next couple of weeks, but over the next couple of months, the expectation is sort of bearish. That's not great news, but the reason for that is because we've been in this sort of bear market since the beginning of the year, and it's more likely that sort of these medium to long-term trends do continue. Of course, until they don't. Anyway, tell me what's your opinion on this. Is there anything that I've missed? And thanks for your attention.